You're listening to Noise and Affection, a podcast where I discuss the music and artists I love and what I'm currently listening to. I'm your host, Candace Dickerson, and after years of being a rock music journalist, I decided to make this podcast as a more inclusive place for all of the genres of music that I love. Kind of like a narrated playlist, a place for the sounds you love. Hi, and welcome to season 3 of Noise and Affection podcast. We made it. Yay! I'm your host, Candace Dickerson, and if you're a new listener, thank you for tuning in. And if you've been with me through seasons 1 and 2, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so excited to have the extremely talented Mike McManus of the New York-based band Gamblers on this episode. We talk about everything from grief and love to politics and, of course, the band's new album, Pulverizer. So stay tuned for that. But before we jump into the interview, I want to mention that there are songs that I've really been loving lately that will be featured on this episode's full Spotify playlist, which is linked in this episode's description. And some of those songs will be from artists like Bad Omens, Stray Kids, Dua Lipa, Nothing More. So be sure to check it out. And now, let's jump straight into the interview with Mike McManus of Gamblers. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. It's great to see you. Great to be chatting again. And thank you for all the support over the last couple of years. It really means a lot.
Oh my gosh, no problem. Yeah, it's been almost 2 years now since the last time you were on. So I'm super excited to have you back. I know, crazy.
That is crazy.
So let's just jump right in and talk about the new album, Pulverizer.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. So as someone who's like a fan of your last album, when I listened to this one, I feel like this might be your most emotionally charged album so far. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
And so where were you mentally and emotionally when you were writing this record?
Well, it was definitely a lot of different emotional states. I mean, when we first started writing, it was an interesting situation because the original version of the band had basically disbanded. The guy that I started the band with, my friend Gary, he left. The original drummer, who's now been back with us for a while, Johnny, he had stepped aside. So it was really just me kind of carrying on Gamblers in name.
Wow.
And I started writing what would end up becoming the next record. And pretty soon after that, we got Jimmy in, who's our lead guitar player, and he's been with us for 5 years now almost. So that was emotional in of itself. I mean, just kind of seeing like, okay, the ashes of this first iteration of the band and putting that together. And then throughout the course of writing Pulverizer, really, I just had so many different upheavals in my personal life that definitely played into a lot of the writing, and also was some of the writing I think was almost foreshadowing in a way, because I was dealing with things that was happening at the time, but then things that happened even after the writing was completed. I've been talking about it a lot, but some of those things are I had a very long-term serious relationship come to an end, which was very difficult. Probably the hardest part about that was that I was a stepfather.
Oh, wow.
And when that relationship ended, obviously not being the biological father, I didn't really have a say in remaining in the kid's life, because that's just how it goes. So that was very, very hard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then before that, my grandfather had passed away, who I was very, very close to. So that was tough. And then it sounds made up, all this stuff, but
No.
then I got into a very serious car accident. I mean, I was really a victim of many victims of a impaired driver who was going 125 miles an hour, and we were all stopped at a stoplight, and he crashed into a car next to me and killed four members of family in that car, and his car flipped up and landed on top of my car. Now I walked away with, minor injuries. I mean, I had a concussion, I have a tear in my shoulder, a tear in my back, and things like that. And I've been diagnosed with PTSD from it. But all told, I walked away, obviously, and unfortunately, a lot of people involved in that accident didn't.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like there's different things like dealing with the loss of the relationship. A couple of songs deal with, and then some foreshadowing like Pulverizer and my car accident, and then we ended up
Oh my gosh.
the album cover is actually showing like crushed cars,
Right.
which was not intentional. It wasn't like on the nose, like, oh, let's do that because you were in a car accident, but just different things um started just kind of like really, like I said, just there's a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of strange stuff. And then my mother passing away. My mom was diagnosed with she's had an autoimmune disease, she had for years, and
Hmm.
then she was diagnosed with cancer, and we thought that it was going to be manageable initially. She had a surgery. She went through chemo. Everything looked like we were on the other end of it.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, one day last summer, she was showing seizure symptoms one morning, and she was rushed to the hospital. And by the next day, we were basically told that the cancer had spread to multiple parts of her body, um, not including which her brain. And they basically told us in so many words that it was going to end one particular way, which was her not surviving.
Right.
And she lived for another 6 months, and she passed away in January. So, the record deals with a lot of mortality. Running from My Grave is one of the songs. The
Hmm.
last track on the album is called Irish Sports Pages, um, which is a sort of a term on my dad's side of the family. And it's sort of like an Irish term that basically means the obituary section of the newspaper.
Oh
So it
wow.
just, it was definitely the most emotional time of my life, and still continues to be. Um, it's been the craziest 2 years, um, 2+ years, and even now, like I entered a new relationship, and that's been just mind blowing in the sense of you know feeling that way. I never anticipated that happening, and so I've been through so much good and bad, most of it bad, some of it good. Um, so I can't make sense of my life. It's been a roller coaster.
Wow. That's like it's not even fathomable. Like that's so much that you've been through. And so when you were recording this record, a lot of these songs, you had already written before some of these things happened. But was it hard for you to throw yourself into recording these songs, or was it in a way like cathartic?
It's definitely cathartic. I think it's important to have ways of processing
Hmm.
what you're going through, and finding different ways to handle things. So having an outlet and having creativity is definitely is definitely important. I mean, it could be hard to remain productive when things are falling around you. But if you could try to grab onto something and focus, give it some portion of your energy and focus, I think it's definitely healthy. I mean, another big aspect that went into, I think, me being able to kind of deal with things like grief, was the fact that I got sober, coming up on 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've said this too, but it's definitely true. Like, for me, my thing was drinking. You know, I dabbled in drug use, and I liked drugs, but I was not a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. You can make a case that they're the same thing, whatever. But my thing was alcohol. So, um, with alcohol, when you quit, I'm sure you've heard it, the day-to-day thing, you one day at a time. And
Right.
the thing about grief and dealing with grief and even dealing with impending loss, for instance, knowing that my mom was probably going to pass away.
Hmm.
Obviously, in my head, not wanting that to be the case, doing everything that we possibly could to have that not be the case. And me and my dad and my brother were doing everything we possibly could to have that not be the case. But in the back of your head, you're not an idiot at the same time. You see the signs, you see what's happening, you see the decline, and you're going, as much as I don't want this to happen, this is probably what's going to happen.
Right.
Which I don't even like saying that now, even after she passed away. Like, I don't even like admitting that. Like, there's part of me that's like still fighting. There's part of me that's
Yeah.
like still, and I know that you have dealt with this recently. So there's part of me that's like, I don't even want to say that. But because it's such a day in day out, like, okay, we're waiting on the next scan, we're waiting for the next
Hmm.
test, we're, how's she feeling today? Oh, she's maybe a little more mentally active today. You grab onto these things. And I think it's this weird parallel, but with not drinking and taking it day to day, I think I was trained to kind of live day to day in a sense while still having a long-term goal. And I think being an artist in general is also a day-to-day thing, because if you just say like, okay, well, here's where I am in my career, and if by tomorrow I'm not all the way at this next level, then I'm going to quit, and it's like
Right.
that's for the people that are not really meant to do this.
You mentioned the thing about your family. That's actually one of my favorite songs on the record, the Irish Sports Pages. And I
Oh,
had a
wow.
question. Yeah, I had a question about that. So, like you said, I've been through something similar when I lost my husband from cancer as well. It's crazy. It's surreal to even, still say that. But there is a line in this song, and I'm going to read it. It says, "We never will display our sadness, the trademark of the brave." And it's like when you're going through a hard time, especially taking care of a loved one, you mostly feel strong. Like there's no room for you to feel sad. And so when I was reading that line, I wondered if music was your place for you to feel sad because you had to feel so strong, like in your everyday life.
Wow, there's so much to get to with that. First and foremost, I'm so sorry that you went through that with your husband. And
Thank you.
eh, it's unbelievably painful, and I wish you nothing but peace.
Thank
Um,
you.
and thank you for calling out attention to this song, because it's probably my favorite song on the record, at least right now. And it's nice that you took the time to sit with it. So that line in particular is a little tongue in cheek, because so my family's name is McManus, and our sort of like Irish family crest, like the slogan that goes along with
Hmm.
it, is bravery and honesty cannot be conquered.
Mm,
So I was kind of playing around with like the trademark of the brave, and honestly, you'll end up on the page the Irish way. Like, I'm playing with like honesty and bravery. Um, and it's tongue in cheek, because like that's a stereotypical Irish trait that we don't show our sadness. Um, and the fact is, of course, we show our sadness. Like, we're human beings,
true.
it's like, of course, it's going to come out in some way. Like, maybe we're not the best, stereotypically, again speaking. Maybe we're not the best at expressing our emotions, or, you know, again, like we bottle everything up and then explode. Um, you know, but it's also that's actually not something to be proud of, right? So
Right.
like that's like it's kind of saying like the trademark of the brave, like it's like, well, that's actually not brave. What's brave is to be vulnerable and to actually share how you're feeling. So it's a little tongue in cheek, but to your point, like you're 100% right in terms of when you are taking care of someone, it actually is amazing what you're capable of doing, from a mental standpoint, where
So true.
it's so true. Like, there were things where I was going into battle. Like, someone's going to tell me extremely bad news about my mom, and I'm going
Hmm.
to have to sit there and just be like, all right, like, let's go. What do you want to tell me today? What do you want? What do you want to do? Like, and you just have to be there and take care of them. And like, it's interesting too, how sometimes, you're kind of like holding space for some you're almost like trading off like who's gonna break down sometimes. Like if my brother was breaking down, I would notice that I was really strong and I was
Right.
there to like hold him and hug him and like just let him have his moment. Same with my dad. And then like if I got really emotional, all of a sudden my dad wouldn't be, and my dad would, be putting his arm around me. So it's like you almost like holding space for one another to kind
Yeah.
of go through that. And one of the things I'm proud of is like we couldn't have been there more for my mom. Like it was not possible. But it's a good point that you bring up, and it's very interesting and very like it was definitely something that like illuminates like the human spirit and like how actually tough we are.
Right. Like I look back and I'm not sure how, like in hindsight, how I even made it through doing as much as I was doing. Cause we have a little girl. So I was taking care of her and everyone at the same time. So I look backwards and I'm like, I, it was only God that I was able to power through and do this much and make it out sane.
Yeah. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, but I think our little girl, like when you have a child that you care about, it really helps you to push through and because you can't break, you can't quit, and you can't give up when someone, that small is counting on you.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, you know what? It's a blessing that you have her because,
Yes.
she probably kept you going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's crazy. Um, okay, but I do have a question about a couple more songs. So I know this song has so much emotional range. And then we've got songs like Straightened Out. I feel like that one's politically charged. And then you've got Morning of the Supermoon, where you're just really laying it all out on the table, being incredibly vulnerable. Did you ever have a moment or like any particular songs where you were hesitant about including it on the album because it felt too personal?
That's a that's a good question because when you know that it's coming out, you go, well, it's coming out, so there's nothing I could do about it. Like even with the some of the relationship stuff I was talking about, my relationship ended up ending.
Right.
So and by the time the record came out, we weren't together for a while already. But at the
Mm.
time I was like, well, when this comes out, there's a couple songs on here where if she reads the
Oh
lyrics, she's gonna
no.
be like what's going on, bud? Like um and then yeah, I mean with the like straightened out, it's funny, we haven't really been asked about that so much. And like the song is very like obviously very political, but no one's really asked us about it.
Wow.
Um and yeah, I mean, look, I think when you're like for me personally, I mean, I think with politics, that was such a that was such a time that was happening, what that song is referring to, which I actually haven't ever talked about this publicly in relation to the song, but I wrote that right after the George Floyd incident,
Oh
and
wow.
we were having a lot of there was a massive protest on Long Island, which I was really proud of because Long Island is typically thought to be just a very conservative place, and
Right.
you know, I have friends that are conservative. Like I don't excommunicate people because of like if they think one way or the other. Like
Mhm.
it's just that I'm just not built that way. My heart is like too big. I can't
Right.
I can't just not like even like one of my best friends, like we do not see eye to eye politically at all, but like and we didn't talk for a couple of years before it because of that. And then I was
Wow.
like I can't, like it's just not me. Like I can't write people off. But anyway, when I write about politics, it's because of I'm moved to do so, and I feel like I don't have a choice.
Mhm.
One thing that I really don't like is like if it feels like someone's writing about politics or like putting on a particular um political hat because they feel like it's gonna, I don't know, be what's in vogue at the time. Like that to
Oh,
me is
yeah.
like disgusting, like so um but I know where I was coming from. I know I was compelled to write that. That's I'm speaking the truth that I was going through, and that a lot of us were feeling at the time. And it's not a common occurrence that I'll talk about something political like
Mhm.
in Gambler's lyrics, but it was just one of those like unavoidable coming to the surface. I have to get this off my chest things.
That's awesome. Um, Yeah, that's why it stood out to me. Because, like I said, I've been a fan for a while, and I feel like I'm a lyrical listener before sonically. So I really just like resonate with the message behind songs. And so I guess maybe that's why I'm picking out the ones that you're like, we've not been asked about. Um,
Yeah, no, I love it.
Okay, so next I want to talk about the visual content because I've been loving all the music videos and it's like all the ones that you're posting on social media. They're very cinematic, very cohesive, almost like they're building up to collectively make one movie together, like they're telling the same story. Can you talk more about the process of like making the visual content for the album?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, um Uh, I'm a kid of the 90s, MTV era, sitting in front of a
Yeah.
TV for hours on end watching music videos. So music videos to me are very important, and they'll never go away, and I'll never
Mhm.
stop making them. So I just love music videos. I love the medium. I love being able to tell a story, even if it's not necessarily plot driven, but it's just a visual story or a visual element. Um, and we definitely take pride in our music videos. We put a lot into them. And this recent sort of go around, we signed to a management agency, and we signed to a booking agency, and things like that. And a part of the management team, which is funny because they're actually younger than us. So
Oh, wow.
um because we're getting up there. We're so some of these guys are younger than us now. Um, but a lot of the strategy is like, vertical visual content for social media and TikTok and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So because that's sort of just a necessity of the way of people putting out music now, um, that was a big focal point, and most of that actually hasn't even come out yet. But like we've done a few like content shoot days where
Mm,
basically it's like, all right, well, what's something we could put out there that's not, that's in addition to our traditional music videos that are going to live on YouTube. But we have a lot of content that we shot that's not necessarily a music video. It's just something visually,
right.
to sort of support that. I mean, we always want to try to be creative, like, because it's tough. Like for guys in their mid 30s, one of us just turned, our guitar player turned 40 the other day. It's like, we this is like to the TikTok, we don't, it's not for us, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound like like a grandpa, but like, so if we're gonna do that stuff, we still, and it's actually something we talk about a lot because we don't want to put something out there we're not comfortable with, or that we feel like we look stupid. So, we're trying to play ball and trying to be modern and trying to, not, we never want to be like, oh, we're above that, or we're, but at the same time, we still want it to feel like us. So just trying to strike that balance. I don't know if we're being successful striking that balance, but that's what we're trying.
I think so. I think so.
Thank you.
And so this may be kind of random, but a while back you did another dose with Mick Jenkins. And I was curious. So are you working on any collaborations with any other artists? Something in the works at all?
So I don't know. This will be an exclusive, but yeah, I can't say who, because
Okay.
truth be told, I don't know. Like we don't know the answer yet, but we will be doing something. We'll be following up Pulverizer relatively quickly. Now watch, I say that it's going to take a couple years. I hope not. But yeah, we're going to be trying to keep our foot on the gas pedal, trying to come back out there. And something like that is definitely of interest. It's definitely, a conversation that we're already having. I don't know that we'll do like a full like when we exit EP with like a bunch of different, because that was a lot, and that was I'm so glad we did that. I'm very, very proud of that. And it remains, our most successful thing to date. It's going to be hard to top, frankly, but um I think we did top it with Pulverizer from a music like creativity standpoint, but just in terms of popularity, because the Mick Jenkins song like is just, it still goes crazy. But we'll definitely try to do something like that. This I'm sure will not happen, but like one one example is like we want to do a Running from My Grave remix with Cyndi Lauper. Like that would just be
Oh,
like,
that'd be awesome.
yeah, we
Anything
could
is
dream, right?
possible. No, anything is possible.
I like that. I
We're
like
gonna
that
put it out
attitude.
into the atmosphere.
That's
Could
it.
happen.
She would sound so good on it. I mean, we pretty much like we're open about it too. Like Jimmy, one of his main influences was that album for Pulverizer was the album She's So Unusual by Cyndi Lauper, and like just that song has like that 80s feel. Like it would be awesome.
That's so cool. Okay, so before we wrap this up, is there any upcoming tour dates, anything that we should know about?
So we're in the process of changing our booking agent, so we don't have any
Okay.
current shows right now. Aside from like anything could pop up at any time. Like sometimes we'll get an offer and we'll take it. We just had a string of shows. We played in Brooklyn, and then we played in Philly, and then we had our release show in New York City, which was a lot of fun. So we just did like a little run. We'll definitely have some more dates throughout the year. We are supposed to have like a full tour booked, but then we ended up firing our booking agent because well, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, we're free agents in that regard right now. So hopefully we could figure that out and get back out there as soon as possible.
Cool. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. And thank you so much for taking time to talk with me. I've enjoyed this so much.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, for having us, having me again, and thank you for all the support. And yeah, no, you're the best. It's
Oh,
I love talking to you.
thank you so much, you too. Okay,
You've been
talk
listening
later.
to Noise and Affection, a place for the sounds you love. See you on the next episode.